items come in. Okay, great. So the recommendation here is to approve the agenda. I don't think there's any additions I saw. Can I have a move? Thank you, DG.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
I just wondered if we wanted to remove that item that Daniel wasn't going to speak to.
I think it'd be nice to just touch base on the report, give the members a chance to touch on it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Sue Ellen. So with that, I had DG move the agenda. Anyone to second? Thank you. All in favor? Great. All right. And I don't believe there were any further comments from the minutes from our January 16th meeting. I did send a few points to Steph, and I think it was updated. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to change or add to the minutes of our last meeting? No? Okay. So I recommend that we approve the minutes of our January 19th meeting and that they be adopted. Can I have someone to move? Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Claudia, for seconding. All in favor? Great. All right. I don't think we have anyone here for public comments today, do we, Steph? No? Okay, so moving on to point 4, and we have Gillian Drake here, the manager of Recreation and Community Services, whom I got to meet just last week, I believe, who is here to talk to us about fresh air fitness. So Gillian, the floor is yours.
All right, well, thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak tonight. It's a pleasure to do so. I'm just going to get my screen share happening here, and I have to say that I know about half of you here, half are familiar faces. So hopefully, you know, within the next few months, maybe I get to meet the rest of you. That would be nice. So
should we do a go round so you know?
Sure, sure. That's always nice.
I'm DG, and I know your mom.
Yeah.
And I guess my background, I'm a biologist and environmental consultant, and I work for an organization called the Stewardship Center for BC. Long time, been on Bowen a long time.
Who would like to go next?
I'm Sue Ellen, and I knew your parents, and I'm glad to meet you. I think I met you, but some Interpretation Canada thing where we were, I don't know. Anyway, you were at your previous work, which was at the Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interpretive, environmental educator. That's how I know Gillian.
Yeah.
Hi, Gillian. You know me. I'm a geomorphologist, coastal geomorphologist, so I help out with those kinds of things on parks and trails. And I'm also on the Trail Society, president of the Trail Society at the moment. So help out in that capacity here.
Okay, great.
Gillian, you know me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Gillian. Nicola, longtime Bowen resident. I read about you in the paper, so I've got a bit of an idea about who you are.
Oh, that seems like an unfair advantage.
And I think I'm the newest member on this committee, so fledgling.
Hi, Gillian. I know your mum, Bessie, worked with her in the library. So, yeah.
Hi, Gillian. I don't know either of your parents, but I would love to meet them. I've been on the committee for a couple of years, still relatively new to Bowen, but happy to be part of this group. Nice to have you here, Sue.
Thanks, Ben.
I was going to leap in and just say Christine has been a longtime member of Bahora and was on the Trails Committee back when we were in Islands Trust, I believe. So Trails, and I've been on the Bowen Island Conservancy and the, you know, anyway, there's several of us here who are long-term, know where things are kind of people, and we wish we had a big table with a map in front of us all the time, but we're online. Yeah, sorry. I cut you off there, Lou.
Yes, I think, did Jeremy have a chance to introduce himself?
No, I've been here on the island for since the Jurassic, and I've been wandering the trails, and I was on, I believe, one of the original members of the Trails Committee back in the Jurassic. Yeah, it's been a long time. I think Christine and I are probably the longest continuing members. Is that right, Christine?
Originals.
Yeah.
I think I am too.
Ah,
Well, in this reincarnation,
in this
Eight-
incarnation, yeah.
8 years or something. Or are you talking about the previous one, Jeremy?
No, I'm talking about the 90s. When the
No.
OCP was formed
No.
back then.
Well, thank you all so much for that. I think, Bowen's really lucky to have such a core group of dedicated people working in this committee. It's great. Thanks. It's nice to have that introduction. So here I'm going to share my screen. And sorry, I'm just trying to find one other piece here. So I have my own preview as well. Okay, so you're still seeing the proper one, right? Just full screen?
Yep.
Just to be sure, I never fully trust it with Zoom. Anyway, thanks again for inviting me to present. It's a real pleasure to get this program launched. It's been a great first initiative working with Bonny. In my first go at having Parks and Rec working together to get something going. So as Councillor Fast alluded to, I have a background in environmental education. Before joining the Muni, I was the Director of Education at Van Dusen Botanical Garden for many years. So I'm quite committed to outdoors and learning and playing in the outdoor environment. Sorry, it's not progressing as it's supposed to on my end. Okay. Just a little bit of background here, why we initiated this program. So when I first started here at the beginning of November, I started asking a lot of questions. I actually still ask a lot of questions, but I asked really a lot in the beginning. And I was reading all of our plans, all the municipal plans from the OCP to the cultural master plan, and of course the rec plan and the parks plan. And I was wanting to know about our programs, about our facilities, and how did we pivot during COVID as we had to do? And more importantly, how can we stop feeling restricted by indoor spaces and really start getting outside? And my team, which is a wonderful creative team when you let them loose and let them come up with great ideas, they kept saying, well, Parks has been wanting us to activate in the parks for a long time. So I started thinking, okay, how do we start pulling all this together? We started trying to brainstorm a little bit about what can we do outside? How can we activate our parks and our trails and our beaches? With the new parameters set by COVID, you can be frustrated by them, you can be intimidated by them, or you can see them as that land of opportunity that forces you to rethink your assumptions and all of your structure that guides your decision making. So we sort of leapt into that place of opportunity and really tried to think of what can we do that will be broadly appealing to the audience, to our community, and make it accessible, and where you don't have to schlep a whole lot of equipment with you. We can't be in some of our regular fitness spaces, so where can we be? And from that, this fresh air fitness idea was born. And the idea of it really being that, we have all these great parks and trails, and let's get some programs out in them. So we talked to some of our local fitness instructors. So this was a way of keeping them employed when we had to scale back the opportunities that we could run with them, but get them out there designing fitness circuits for us. We take it back then and do some of the, the massaging of it to make it make sense, and do the graphic design work and make sure that it is adaptable for various fitness levels, but giving a bit of a challenge too. So then, we had to circle back with Bonny, of course, and make sure that we have all the proper language on the signs that are covering our liability issues, and making sure not just paying attention to your body and doing a fitness routine that works for you, but you're being careful of all the exposed roots and the overhang branches and all the different natural obstacles that may be out there. And we're very fortunate that this first set of this first circuit, the set of signs, is actually funded by the Bowen Island Literary Task Force. So it's great that they've been supporting us in this first go. So Quarry Park really was the natural first fit for this program. It's the parking lot has just been installed, as you know, that the pit toilet's not in yet, but it will be. And it gets a fair amount of use, but it can handle a little bit more. And there's spaces where people can be outside and be distant. So this was the first launch, the first go. So we actually just got this up installed finally at the end of last week, which was great because the park was packed over the weekend, right? I went a couple of times and the new parking lot was jammed full. Everybody was down on the lake skating, playing hockey, playing in the snow. It was fantastic. It was just great. So I just want to give you a few images from the different signs that we've installed throughout. Taking care, we've installed some things with screws into the structures that you see here, but other things with trees are done with cable ties. So it's not actually going into the tree at all. So obviously we're always thinking, you know, how do you incorporate the mascots in what we do with the municipality, right? So while we haven't necessarily yet got the personalities of the mascots coming through, we tried to weave them through and use that color scheme as our guide. So all of the different activities are targeting a different area from balance, strength, cardio, and stretch. And as you look through and you see some of these images, hopefully you'll catch our color coordination that we're really hoping visitors out in the parks also realize. But all of the activities that are balanced will be in blue and featuring the seal. And you'll see that repeated as we go through. The slug gets in there. The slug's all about stretching. Maybe in future iterations, the slug will get involved with some other things, but there's a real diversity of opportunities with that. And this was the very first user of our signs right off the bat. As soon as we got them up, this was like the coldest day of the year and you can still be out there exercising. And okay, those of you who know my mom, this is actually my mom, but you know, because so many of you know her, I had to say that. Don't you tell her that I put her in this here. But you can see there's different activities and different ways to do things. So this is early on. This is only station number 2. So we're just making sure that everybody's getting stretched and warmed up. Oh, can't seem to advance for some reason. Sorry. Dropbox wants me to do something with them and I'm not very interested in that. So, okay. So we've learned some things right off the bat as we're doing this. So we've got these first set of signs up. What we want to do is really try and get some feedback from the users, and seeing the signs right off the bat, we know there's some design modifications that we need to do. And that's why I brought this particular image back, because the sign that we designed to be on that whiteboard, not the right size. It needs a little bit of a design tweak, and that's okay. This is our first pilot. We know we're going to have changes that we need to do. So when we take down these signs and reinstall new ones, not going to go to waste. You flip them over, they become instant clipboards for kids outside in programming, and kids love clipboards. And this will be perfect. So we know we've got quite a few things to modify and work on with that, and that's just fine. We've got various instructors ready to go, wanting to design the next set of signs as soon as we recognize, so we identify which park to be in. So just a few other things that we're looking at that we know we need to work and think about. So you can see in this image with the moss garden, which I'm not sure how much moss is left in that garden anymore. It's more of a climbing garden as far as I can tell with what kids and dogs do. But so it's a great spot that lends itself naturally for further engagement. There's lots of room for people to exercise. There is nothing nearby to mount the sign on. Right? So this was an interesting challenge that when we went out there with our signs to install, we're like, well, that's not going to work. The image in the middle is actually for the following station, and the sign for the moss garden activity is actually quite a distance away from it. So that's the type of learning that we're able to take on and work with our instructors for the next ones. And on the image on the right, the bridge hop is a great workout. And we've got the deer, and I was told, yes, well, deer jump too. It doesn't have to be the frog at this particular one. But the frog, you know, we're all about inclusivity and making this opportunity for everyone. So the frog's got to get in there somehow. But his frog's color scheme is too close to the deer, which makes it complicated with defining cardio. So there are a few issues. And one of our original intentions as well, I did mention in the beginning that it'd be great to get some of these mascots actually speaking up and saying a few things, like incentivizing people, or the frog saying, hey, I'm only this small and I can jump this high, show me what you can do, or various things that we can do with that. But we'd like to get them more incorporated. And initially I wanted to link it to a biological property of that animal and then connect that through the fitness level as well. And then we could infuse a little bit of an environmental message in there at the same time, and a bit of learning about these animals and their adaptations that allow them to survive and thrive in the environment, and how we have similar physical attributes that help us to survive. So that's the overall concept of it. And I'll just stop sharing. So bring it back.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gillian. I applaud you and all your efforts. When did you get that done? It's amazing. It's such wonderful work.
It's great, Theo. Thank you. It's and it was definitely a team effort. As I said, you know, the recreation department they're a pretty clever bunch, and it's fun when we get it together. So we just finished installing these last week. So it took a bit of time in getting it all done, and everything always takes longer than you think. Right?
Yeah. I will. I have a couple of comments and questions, but I'll open the floor. I've got Sue Ellen's hand up. Anybody else? No? Okay, so we'll start with Sue Ellen. Thanks again.
Thank you, Gillian. That was great. It's fascinating to see Quarry Park 20 years later. And later, like towards the end of today's agenda, I have a slideshow too, and I was going to show you what it looked like back in 2003. And if you want to see how it evolved, you're welcome. We can change the order if you want to see that now while you're still with us, or I can send it to you or something. I'll just send it to you as an email. But I wanted to say it's interesting about how it evolves, because when it started, it was basically bare open earth with big machines parked on it, and sort of leaking hydraulic fluid into the ground. So that's what you're calling the moss garden is. That we set that up as the 15 years ago. That was the stone circle, and it was well, I'll send you the slides and you'll see. But it's interesting that kids are climbing on it now. There's not much moss. We thought it was going to stay as stones because it was all very shady then. But anyway, at that time, erosion was our big deal. That's partly why there's no structures near the stone circle, moss garden. It was supposed to stabilize there, and we were waiting for plants to come up around the edges before it all sloughed down the cliff and filled in the wetland. So, you know, there are some structural things, and however, I don't think you have to worry about them. But if you've ever got questions about why is this way, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to see some of the old images from that. I remember my dad working with you to install that, and I actually helped on one of my visits from Florida. I was helping do that so many years
anyway,
ago.
the only other things I wanted to say was at that time, way back, it was a Parks and Rec project. It was Bowen Island Parks and Rec Commission that was actually very active in the project, and the Bowen Island Conservancy that some of us were on. We were working together, and most of us were on both committees. So it was very much a joint project, and it's just delightful to see it activated. And I'm also really happy to hear about you're looking at our parks, trails, beaches, and greenways as our outdoor recreation facilities. That's the way we always thought about them, is let's invest in making those spaces open for people, because we still don't have a recreation center or very much in the way. Now we're getting a community center eventually, but I've got other ideas. We've had other ideas through the years about where to put rec programs, like Learn to Bike on the no name road, the road that has no houses on it, but it's all paved and maintained by us already anyway. Anyway, I've got other ideas. We can be in touch later, but
absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Sue Ellen. Are there any other comments or, yeah, I see Ben.
That's really neat, Gillian. Thank you for sharing that. It's awesome to envision ways to get people doing things in the parks. And I love the idea of doing it in other parks. And I think something, I'm sure you've thought of this, but something that I would encourage is coming up with some kind of kids specific version of it. And potentially getting in contact with the library and maybe trying to turn it into a narrative driven thing. So have activities and sort of, literary devices to move things along. I could see that working really well for kids. I think it looks like it's sort of a perfect fit for getting kids being active in the parks. So it looks great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Great idea. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Ben, for that. Jeremy?
I just wanted to say, I noticed in Switzerland, they often have exercise things in forest parks, and they could be balance beams or any kinds of challenges, things that are good for kids and adults as well. And I've seen people using them in the midst of jogging, and they would stop and they would go through some kind of an obstacle course that was physically challenging. But they were very naturally done, set up with logs and things that weren't obtrusive. Yeah, quite a neat idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy. Anyone else have some feedback for Gillian at this time? DG?
Yeah, just really great concept. I love it. And I just wanted to mention that I really like the idea of incorporating the mascots and their biological, place and making that connection. It adds a nice extra layer to just fitness. So you can sort of maybe use those mascots and what they represent as another way into deepening the understanding of Bowen's biodiversity. So just wanted to encourage that direction. So well done.
Thank you. And we kind of thought for now, we just got to get these up, and then we can modify and add some of those other features. And maybe each circuit should actually have a special kids section down below, and so that it's not just one for kids, but they're all for kids as well. So thank you. We'll incorporate all these ideas and think about how to modify. Yeah.
Ellen?
If you don't mind, I'm just going to mention one more thing, and that is part of the reason that the trails are in that loop, and you mentioned people going down to skate. The original plan for restoring the park included no public access below the main trails. The reason was that the whole point of the park being restored from a quarry to a park was to protect wildlife habitat. So just when you're thinking about these things, I mean, nothing against skating, and winter is a perfect time for people to go down there, but I'm not wanting to open more trails down or to let people down there for a number of reasons. Partly it's the wildlife habitat, partly the original provincial biologists who brought the community to the point of having to do something with that dam and stuff that I'll send you the slides, was because of public safety. And also it was a quarry. So some parts of it are really slick clay. It's dangerous for kids to try and walk around the edge. So it looks okay, it's covered with leaves, but it's slick. So there's a number of reasons just not to go down below the trail. So when you said go down below and the skating, I just wanted you to have that in mind. Thank you.
I just had one thing. I went down a couple of weeks ago to have a look. We had talked about potential placement of benches and picnic tables at our last meeting. So Gillian, and thank you very much for putting this together. It's really wonderful. I think I love the idea. Now I'm thinking if you might have some ideas, or we all might think now that these signs are up and there's activities in certain places, if that also might influence where the benches or picnic tables go.
Yes, very good point, Nicola. Sorry, Gillian, did you want to respond to that?
Well, no, just that the intent of what we're trying to do is for it to be flexible and to integrate with other plans and ideas that you have. And I think I would love to run programming out of this park, you know, whether it's a Saturday morning program or a, you know, Pro D Day program for the schools and things like that. I think, so I think there are some considerations about where to put benches and tables that lend themselves for lessons and programming, but it's also, there's a lot of flexibility there. I think probably one of your biggest challenges is going to be balancing where you want the people to go with what they're showing you as their natural inclination to do, right? And that's always an issue with managing wild spaces, I think, too.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that, looking at people yesterday or this weekend and wondering, are people using the park in a very different way in the summer versus in the winter? And how does that influence the decisions that you're making? So I saw the agenda, of course, before coming tonight. So big decisions.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gillian. I think when you said that you wanted to activate the parks, that really resonated with me. And that was the reason why I joined the Parks Committee, because there's so many beautiful spaces on the island and they just need a little bit of activation. And I think what the ones you showed us, the signs that you showed us are so inclusive in terms of, you know, so many different ages can participate in those activities. I like the universality of them. I can see my kids loving to do some of those activities and myself also enjoying from doing those. And so I had a question just in terms of, I guess, what will go into deciding what other circuits you might do, or are you just going to focus on Quarry Park now and observe and just try to, I guess, perfect that space first, or is there like a methodology in choosing the next circuit? I would like to put a plug in for Arbutus Park, since we're already thinking about, you know, enhancing the play structures there. And just for the committee, just to update you, we had a meeting with Gillian and with Bonny around the playground for Kate's Hill, and we unanimously agreed that working on the Arbutus Ridge playground over on the west side, just off of Windjammer, and enhancing the play structures that are already there, the natural play structures, would probably make more sense instead of starting afresh at Kate's Hill at this time. And there are other reasons as well. So we're thinking around how to you know, work on that space. And I guess that's why I'm putting in the plug for thinking about that circuit. And particularly my comment was going to be just like Ben's in terms of integrating the elements that will make it child friendly. And, you know, something instant, like just making the signs just a bit lower so they can read them. And I think that would just get their attention. If it's up high, it's probably something they could miss. But I think the one on the bridge was actually at their level, so that was quite low. That's good, but that's an easy way just to make it more universal. Because I think the activities are actually, I think kids could do those as well. And then what was the other question I had? Oh, feedback, the user feedback. I suppose there's observation from the staff, from recreation staff, but is there a way that you're gathering feedback from the community on the Fresh Air project?
Well, we haven't initiated anything yet. There is the possibility of using Citizen Lab, which is used extensively by municipalities. So I actually don't know anything about how to use that at this stage, but that's information that can be found. Yeah, we haven't actually looked at different ways to get that feedback. Yeah, observation is one of them, but that's only a small piece of it. So it's something to work on for sure. In terms of which park to do next, as I was saying, there's definitely interest with our instructors. We have people ready to go to design new ones, but those decisions would be made with Bonny. So identifying which is the best park to do. So it's nice to spread them around the island. I mean, I totally agree that West Side Playscape space this would be a great activity in that area, and it would benefit from this type of activity. But it's all in the same sort of area. So that's kind of the challenge. We want to make sure, you know, maybe we look at the steps down to the Eagle Cliff Beach and do a really hardcore cardio workout going up and down those steps or something. We need to work on that. But as I said, that'll be in concert with Bonny. we make those decisions.
I just wanted to add to that. Gillian and I we started little walkabouts, like envisioning where we might have circuits in the future. And one of them was the Eagle Cliff Stairs, Scarborough Beach, and then also incorporating Leaven to some historical context, perhaps. Because, I mean, it's just that there's the road there, right? So, but there's lots of opportunities to link our beach. We kind of want to do one, I think, incorporating beaches too, right? So, and then there's also maybe a easier loop just doing the beaches in Mannion Bay as well, and incorporating, especially if we can start to incorporate ecological information.
Yeah, and then maybe a circuit takes, rather than cardio and strength and workout, maybe a circuit is more of a mindfulness circuit, and we're actually slowing down and engaging more closely and deeply with what we're seeing around us, more purposefully. So I think the slug might have to lead that one, but
oh, some forest bathing signs would be great in the forest. I'm just picturing it.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to hearing all of your different ideas and things that we can do. I appreciate it. Yeah, anybody definitely could email me with different ideas, and I look forward to hearing more and doing more together. It's great.
Thank you so much, Gillian.
Okay. Well, thanks. And I'm going to sign off, I think, for the night. So
have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you, Gillian.
Welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and thank you, Steph, for sharing her email. It's in the chat. All right. So the next item is Daniel, but he's not around. And Steph, you think it's worthwhile touching upon this, just to touch upon it? I think the point of
Bonny can leave for.
Oh, okay.
If that's okay with you.
That's fine. That's fine with me.
Yeah, and probably Councillor Fast could pop in, but just really encourage people to read Daniel's report that was on the council agenda at the last council meeting, and it sort of looked at potential build out numbers, just the potential forecast for development on Bowen. And so, of course, it's been referred to a lot of the committees, and, it really could have some implications. Jeremy sent out a really good email as well to the committee a little while back. And so I think it's going to be a great discussion we can have at the March 9th meeting, because we are meeting a little bit earlier than usual just because of spring break next month. I think we are. I don't know if we voted on that, but anyway, we're hoping March 9th, and just get a really good discussion on, possible implications on our parks, trails, beaches, greenways, with the information at hand that Daniel has provided.
Thanks, Bonnie. Are there any immediate reactions or comments from the committee? I have Sue Ellen.
Yeah, just to follow up with Bonnie, the idea is long-term planning into the future. And as I said at the council meeting, you can't put in a trail afterwards. You have to have plans ahead of time and be thinking about it as growth happens, so that you're managing growth in a way that incorporates trails and beaches and access to parks and shortcuts and all those things, and wildlife, and healthy environment around. So this is those of us who've been on the Trails Committee for a long time know these kinds of things, but the idea is to have a look at what's coming down the pike and to be ready ahead of time. So I'm looking forward to that discussion.
Thanks, Sue Ellen. DG?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I think this is a really important report, and for us to understand and incorporate into our, short and long term planning. And so really appreciate it getting referred to us. And, just to add to, just where I think it's really critical, well, in addition to the other more obvious ones, but that whole Greenway piece that our committee has, that perspective, I think that's something that we really need to make sure that comes through, because I sometimes think it's not as intuitively obvious. And so I think we can work hard to make that connection with this report, or we should have that focus as well. So just really appreciate that and look forward to a robust discussion next month.
Jeremy?
Yeah, the thing that struck me about it is being able to quantify a sense of how the island will change. I've been here for a long time and I've certainly seen a lot of changes, but when I add that into the mix, I realize that what it's going to be like in 50 or 60 years will be very different from what we know today. And the thought is of what that population means in terms of, for example, trail usage. You can see now with the pandemic and people being outside and using trails to an extent I have never seen before. And these probably are mostly islanders rather than visitors, but it's telling. And I was, to be honest, I've been kind of shocked by it. Trails that were completely obscure are now well trodden. And to realize that many more people on the island and relying on the resources of trails and so on, it makes you realize the significance of the Crown lands here. If it had escaped you at any point, they become really, really significant in the whole sense of what this island, well, the feel at least currently is. And I suppose even for newcomers, it just seems like this fantastic place to escape into the hinterland. And I think we really need to be cognizant of that. Just even looking at those numbers, whether or not the actual build out will happen, just the possibility of it is sobering, and really emphasizes to me the priority of preserving the spaces, not only that we have, but embellishing them, because the demands are going to be even higher for those spaces that we all love.
Thanks, Jeremy. Anybody else? Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, activating the parks and trails like we were just talking about, and also the write-ups that the committee wants to do to bring more attention to these spaces will be so critical at this time, as I think the island is at the precipice of change. It's really changing. I've just been here for a year and a half myself, and I've seen so much development and there's so much buzzing and going on, but it's critical that we do protect these spaces. And I'm just thinking about the Bowen Island brand, because I referred to that in preparing that last recommendation, and just the things that Bowen Islanders said makes this island unique. And it's that, the quiet and the serenity and the peace. And I can't imagine what Bowen Island will be like in the next 50, 60 years, like you're saying, Jeremy. So I encourage everyone to definitely take a look at Daniel's presentation. I think we do have a copy of it. And he also presented at council on Monday, or last Monday. So you can also refer to that presentation.
What you have here is the council report and the council presentation. The presentation is quite thorough. If you don't want to read the whole report.
And there's a map in there, from what I recall, that shows the areas, right? The vacant properties. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just to be able to look at that before we hear from Daniel, that would be great. Any other points on that before moving on? No. Okay. Now, where are we? Okay, so action items. I believe most of the action items are actually in this agenda. We've touched upon, and so there's no need to really review that. So I'm going to skip over that. Business arising from the minutes. 6.1 is the work plan that we worked on last week. And Bonny, would you like to update us on where that's at? I think there's a copy there, the link.
Yeah. So I went through it. Did I go through it last meeting?
We did.
I sent it out to the committee. Yeah. So I guess I'm just looking for, because we Steph, has it gone? Did it go to council yet? So, okay, so we just want to finalize it and get it to council for a information item. And
So is that okay to screen?
Yeah, I tried to incorporate most of the feedback, but I might have missed something. Just, I think this year is all about highlighting, activating, really highlighting what we have, and so people can appreciate what we have. And I don't like the word promotion, but promoting our natural assets. So we have the overall objectives I've captured as writing campaign, and walkabouts. Of course, that's just, one of that's fun. And, in non-COVID times, it's really, really a part of this committee that's really fun when we can all get out in the woods together. Also, I am going to be looking at a parks bylaw. Actually, council fairly soon, Daniel and I are going to be bringing forward a use of public places bylaw. So there will be some reference of what you can and can't do in public places, and parks being one of those. I may or may not need some help. It's a council priority that's been sort of pushed. It's a priority that's been pushed just because of some recent events on public places. So we are working on that sooner than I thought, which is a good thing. So I may and may not need some help with that from the committee. I think probably I'll have my report done for council before we meet again. So, but notwithstanding that, I am going to be looking at some use of parks, permitting, structure, cost structure, that sort of thing as well. So there may be some help needed, because I really value what everybody has to share with respects to parks, trails, and greenways. And then the other overall objective, of course, is just with helping with invasive species removal projects as needed. I know that there is one person on the island that's going to be doing some broom removal. I will let the committee know when that's going to happen. Something that carried over from last year was the boot brushes. So I do hope that maybe we can further that project.
Sorry, did I lose the screen share?
Oh, yes, yes, you can.
I can't find it. Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I gotta stop. I'm so sorry. Continue and I'll find it again.
Yeah.
Embarrassing.
So
That's a great photo.
Yeah, that was really cute. Sorry, I'll just wait till it comes back up again, because I'm just using the screen as my.
I'm trying to close some tabs and it went crazy with it. Sorry. Okay.
That's great.
Everyone have a drink of water. And we're back. Okay.
Thanks, Steph. Thank you. So yeah, the boot brushes. And then as far as beaches are concerned, I think it was DG or other members as well spoke up about monitoring, sort of observing erosion. So determining areas of concern and perhaps setting up a photo monitoring during 2021 of specific beach areas. Maybe we can have a discussion next meeting, although it might be a full one. It might be March, maybe April. I know that Tunstall was talked about, and Tunstall is an area of concern, and perhaps other beaches as well. So the message was determining basically those beaches. And I just know about our staffing resources. We're just lean, to say the least, when it comes with parks, and because I have another hat as well with bylaws. So I would ideally love to go out there and monitor photographically, but maybe the committee could volunteer to do some of that work. And I just carry this over because it's been on our work plan for a few years. I want to say 3 to 4 years, and that's, I think, 3 years anyway, for sure. And that's renamed Pebble Beach at Cape Roger Curtis. That was actually something that was comes from the park plan. It doesn't necessarily have to be Pebble Beach, but there was a lot of talk of that during their public consultation with the parks plan, is that we have Pebbly Beach and we have Pebble Beach, and from an emergency response standpoint, it could be problematic. It hasn't yet, but it could be. But you know, I just would love to collaborate with the Squamish Nation and have one of our parks or beach areas, one of our natural areas, be renamed as something. I think that would go a long way.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that through the Islands Trust, I know that Squamish Nation now has a referral portal, so you can sign up, you know, make your username and password and that kind of thing, and submit whatever it is you want to refer. And they have a referrals analysis system now, because they used to get overwhelmed, right? And
that's great.
Anyway, so I'll know more about it soon, and so maybe if you and I could talk sometime before you send anything in. Thank you.
That's great. Good news. Thanks. And Steph, just one down a little bit, scrolling down to the next page. So identified undeveloped beaches where access can be improved, and that's again carried over from 2020. There was some work done there. I don't think there isn't any budget for an improvement identified this next year. We're really quite lean with our budget, although there are some reserve funds to improve access to the sea. I'm thinking that would be a 2022 project, if we could maybe identify as a committee over the next year. Well, we want to have the budget done by the end of the year. So maybe, you know, by fall, if we could, you know, solidify an access that we'd like to see improved, then that might be good. It'd be good to start doing some improvements to improve public access to the sea. For parks, Quarry Park and Headwaters Park improvements. So assist in the creation of interpretive materials. And this is where what Gillian was speaking of tonight, that maybe we could do some, you know, maybe work on that fresh air fitness a little bit and have some ecological, yes, Sue Ellen.
Just that I've got a bunch of slides and I've sent them to Steph. So whenever you want to talk about Quarry Park, I have just about 15 slides, but that'll bring a bit of a picture.
Yeah. That's awesome. Great. Yeah, we're almost through this one, and that'd be great to see those. And then help organize a community event that showcases the improvements. We spoke of that. We're going to have a launch once the improvements are completed in Quarry Park. And then Greenways, just review and comment on rezoning, subdivisions, and relevant climate emergency policies and bylaws as directed by council. And I said ensuring connectivity for nature, wildlife, and biodiversity is maintained. And then overall objectives for the infrastructure allocation is signage at beach accesses. We're still trying to replace those brown signs. It really bothers me when I see photos of we have the old brown signs. They're not horrible, but we definitely want to continue. So we have noted the ones at Quarry Park. And if anyone is out hiking, I just encourage you, if you take a photo and just email them to me or to Carla, so that we've got a list, and we are slowly pecking away at those brown signs, and we will get them all replaced one day. So yeah, signage and determining suitability for wildlife habitat creation. And I did add the swallows, as Councillor Fast had mentioned last meeting. I believe it was like looking at some habitat enhancements, maybe at Veterans Park on the poles or something. So yeah, so that was everything. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add. I feel that this is a realistic, it's realistic given our staff resources. There's no budget implications, which is very favorable for council this year. So yeah, so just open to comments.
Okay, thank you so much, Bonnie. I see DG.
Yeah, just a real quick comment. I just noticed that on that last one on the Veterans Park, it says installing boxes for and swallows. So I'm wondering if
Oh,
they're
for
using-
bats. We missed
Yeah.
bats. Yes,
I-
thank you.
I thought maybe there might have been something else that was supposed to be there. Yeah,
no,
bats
thank you.
and swallows. Yeah, that
Good
makes
catch.
sense.
Good catch, Gigi. Thank you.
Bonnie, a quick suggestion on beach monitoring. A number of years ago when I was teaching at the university, we used to run a program for community monitoring of several beaches in the region that was run by students, and they were mostly implemented by high school students. So it's possible that it could be a really good project for IPS with some guidance, just in terms of what methods to use and how to implement it as a project, because it would integrate really well with things like, you know, sea level rise and climate change understanding and some basic coastal processes and beach processes. But that's something that is realistic without really any budget, but can be done systematically. We've done also in a lot of remote communities, we've implemented community-based monitoring projects and programs over the years that have been really successful in different places. And it's just a matter of setting them up and then carrying on the data set over the years with volunteer help.
That sounds fantastic. Phil, do you have any examples of those monitoring programs specifically?
Yeah, I can help pull up a few examples where we've done that in the past.
That would be fantastic. Absolutely. Budding geomorphologists. IPS, yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to echo Phil, because I just saw one recently. I'm scanning here madly for it, but when I find the reference, I'll send it around. It's just a, and maybe this will be phase 2, but it's just a little cell phone mount where you actually sort of on the top of your railing at one spot. It has a little sign, and it's just like a little case, and you slide your cell phone in there, take a photo, and it tells you where to send it to, and it goes. So it's like, and they showed photos of some beach. Anyway, when I find it, I'll send it around. But I think Phil's really onto something.
That's a one option is photographic from a fixed location with a frame. You just put the camera in the frame and shoot and send. Great, yeah, great option.
Great. See, I can't see everybody's faces. Okay, anyone else have any comments or anything to add? No. You know, Bonnie, I was thinking for the circuit, the beach circuit, that could be an activity. The community monitoring, so incorporating that, I think that idea is great. Suellen, of having a stand for a camera and people just can interact with their environment that way. But can, you know, have a stewardship sort of like activity that people can everyone can contribute to gathering data.
That one might be a grant application after we do the first, pilot project or something like that with Phil. But anyway, I'll send it around. Yeah.
Yeah, great idea. Thank you, Bonnie, for walking us through the work plan. I don't see any hands. All right. So moving on. So Bonnie, I suppose at this point, is there anything further from the committee that that you need from us, or?
Can we get a little recommendation just to approve it and ask council to?
Yeah, okay. So the recommendation is to approve the work plan as is. Can I have a motion? Thank you, Nicola, and second, I saw Jeremy. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? Okay, great. So moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the shoreline protection legislation, I believe.
Sorry, I'm just noticing I got Bonnie's name as the vice chair of this committee.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Sorry, Claudia.
Sorry about that. Oh, you're on mute, Claudia.
I knew you were trying to steal it from me.
Trying to give you some work.
So just a little background on this. We just wanted to get something out there for staff to get working. We had a lot of great ideas at the last meeting, and just in terms of efficiency and time, we thought it'd be best to keep it simple, and just something that we can present, that staff can be presented to council, just to direct staff to get going on researching options for protection and conservation. So I'll just read out this recommendation to the committee if you haven't had a chance to read it already. It is to ensure ecological and aesthetic shoreline assets are considered in development proposals. The Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee recommend that council direct staff to create a development permit area bylaw to protect Bowen Island coastal areas. So I don't know if Bonny, you wanted to add anything here, or I can continue. No, okay. So that's the suggested wording, and I think this is really to, as I said, just to get council to direct staff to just start looking into this bylaw and keep it simple at this point. All the points that did come across in the last meeting will be taken into account by the Parks and Environment team. So this is the recommendation we'd like to put forward, and I don't know if there are any questions or feedback from the committee at this time, but I'd like to put forward a motion to move this recommendation. And Claudia, you have a question?
Sorry. I wanted to move that we make that recommendation.
Thank you, Claudia. And anyone second? Ben, great. All in favor?
Can I just ask a question?
Who is that? I missed.
It's DG.
Oh, hi, DG. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I just
make my window bigger.
Yeah, just I like it. It's nice and straightforward. But I am conscious, and I'm just curious on people's perspectives of in previous iterations of this committee, we have made recommendations that have been soundly rejected by council. And I'm not saying this would, but I was just curious in terms of whether or not this is going to go before council, and it's going to be, what are the senses? Is this going to be received with a positive frame of mind, or is there a possibility that there's not enough background and therefore it will not be moved, the recommendation won't be accepted? So I just was curious about whether or not there's any thoughts on that.
Yes, Councillor Swellen.
If it goes forward this way, I will have to do a lot of work because I will be speaking to it as the person on the committee. Maybe staff will be asked as well, but if it just comes forward on a regular budget, council agenda format. However, I can do that. That's what I do. And I'd be happy to do that. And I can link it up with our strategic plan and our different official community plan goals and objectives. And I can link it up to the other good things that we've been talking about tonight. So I'm happy to do that. I'm happy with it, whatever the committee decides.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. I saw Bonny and then Claudia.
I think that's where the draft recommendation, Sue Ellen, will come in handy.
Oh, yeah.
A lot. So that work was great that the committee did. And I just wanted to reiterate as well that staff has been talking about some sort of shoreline protective mechanisms or tools for quite some time.
Good. Yeah.
Claudia?
You know, I guess I'm worried too that it might be rejected by council if they think staff is too busy or it's not a priority for them, or they have private property views that differ from conservation views. But so I guess I'd like to ask Sue Ellen, do you think that it's better to come, that reasoning behind it to come from the committee, or for you and have it be a really, you know, wordy recommendation, which is what we were afraid was happening. It was getting unwieldy. And would it be better that you can be there and explain it in person and have the actual recommendation quite brief and short?
I think this is going to be better. Thinking about it, because I can prepare a little report, which I often do, like a short staff report almost, where I lay everything out. And as a counselor, that's something I've been able to do. So if I need to run it past a few people, I think I know a few people I can run it past on the committee.
Okay.
And of course, Bonny as well. You know, to make sure I've got, I'll probably do that. Although I gotta say, sometimes it's very last minute and I just get it in under the deadline. So, but it'll work, I think.
Okay.
And I think the wording of the recommendation, it's, you know, it says the first statement is really, I mean, yes, it could be argued, but you know, that Shoreline's aesthetics and ecological values of shoreline habitats be considered in development. That's the crux of it, that it's not being considered right now or it might be considered, but there's no tools to protect it. So I think the recommendation states very clearly, yeah, what's needed and why it's needed, I guess why it's needed and how it can be achieved.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's my kind of role. I'm liaison for the committee with council. And so I see myself as sort of a channel. And I know lots of us here come from work backgrounds where we'd be creating the reports and that kind of thing. So maybe I'll leave it that if you want to have input on my report, let me know by email. And otherwise I'll see how it goes. But in general, I'll be sure to run it past Bonny. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Steph, I saw that you pulled up the recommendation on your screen. Was there any changing to the wording?
No, just so when Bonny was talking about the wording, I thought people sometimes like to visualize it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Can I read it out? Just partly because this is video recording. So if anybody does look back later, they might want to know what we're talking about, or so anybody can read it out.
Oh, let me read it again? Sure. So the recommendation is to ensure ecological and aesthetic shoreline assets are considered in development proposals. The Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee recommend that council direct staff to create a development permit area bylaw to protect Bowen Island coastal areas.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Good. I think you had it moved and seconded, right?
Yes, we did. So we can proceed.
All in favor?
Yes. All in favor? Yep.
Yep.
And no one opposed. Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Sue Ellen, for that feedback. Really useful. All right. So the next item on the agenda is the communications campaign. And I have DG here to walk us through.
Yeah, and I'm really having trouble getting the list coming up. So I'm wondering whether Steph, I don't know why I can't get it to come up, but.
So there's oh, okay.
There's
I
a
have
link to
link.
the list. And yeah, okay. So I think the idea here is for us to add to that list.
Yeah, so the actions were to, I'm just gonna get a Word doc so I can type while you're talking.
And so our task was for those who aren't on the list yet, to come up with some ideas about what you'd like to write a short article about. And I know I can just start. I'm very interested in shorelines as greenways. I was really looking when we were talking about that lot on White Sails, and that notion of standing on Tunstall Beach and looking, the values of the shore from the park just really resonated with me. So shorelines as greenways, I thought would be something that I would like to do. And just wondering if there's anybody else who's come up with an idea that we can put on there, and then we can maybe order them in terms of when we want to do it. Okay, Sue Ellen.
I just wanted to say I'd done one of my action items, and that is I got in touch with Virginia Penny about the beaches. Remember we, a few years ago, Virginia and I put together, mostly Virginia, put together this insert into the gold pages with Barb. She's written back and says, "Hi, Sue Ellen, I'm happy to hear that this text can be of more use. I ask that you give me credit for my contribution is all. If you're revising it very much, could I have a look at it? Also, I think I have the text in digital form if you need it." So I'm not sure, Phil, if that's what you were thinking about. Probably not what you were thinking about doing about beaches, but I can certainly work more with Virginia about that too, if you want to put me down for another one. Or if Phil wants to do it, or somebody can do it, because
it'd be great to collaborate, Sue Ellen, because I've been had limited bandwidth for actually doing anything on this idea, though I have been thinking about it. So I'm happy to collaborate.
Very good. I'll forward you, and the three of us can work on it. And if we're lucky, Virginia will just pile in.
Great. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Anybody else had some ideas?
I did have another idea.
Okay.
It was just when I was new to the committee and going through all of the, maps and things, and under the committee's website, there were a lot more parks. I thought I knew all the parks on Bowen. I thought I had been to them all, but in fact, there were a lot of what I would call hidden parks on Bowen. So I thought of maybe doing an article on some of the lesser known, smaller parks on Bowen and how to find them.
Yep.
So possibly something like that.
Yeah, we did do a bit of a undercurrent article campaign for a while, a few years back, did we, on little known parks? Does that ring a bell to anyone? But it's not that it shouldn't be done again, because yeah, there's still lots of hidden gems.
Yeah, the Nature Club did some lesser known beaches, and Virginia helped out with that. And I know I mentioned that to this committee. So was that maybe what you were thinking of?
No, I might be mistaken. Steph Mask, can you increase the font size on that? Because can't read it.
And similar to what Nicola just has proposed, I was actually thinking about child-friendly sort of spaces, kind of thinking about the West Side Playground or park, and in an effort to sort of activate that and bring more foot traffic there, writing a piece about the Arbutus Park and then maybe the Cates Hill Park, just kind of kind of like these lesser known parks, but ones that are particularly appealing to children that we like to go and have a picnic at and play. So I thought I would do something along those lines.
That's great.
I I guess you can't see me. I'm waving my hand
Yes,
around.
yes, there you go. So I can only see. Go for it, Christine.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to see how you felt about this. It's a slightly different take because I was thinking, what could I do? Because I'm not out there all that much. I wanted to do a sort of a historical perspective a bit about on the trails that I used to ride on a horse that I no longer can because they're now full of houses. But then balance that with the fact that there are now other places where I can ride, or if I did, I could, where there are trails. So try and do the, what we've lost and what we've gained, and just how important it is that we do have those new trails because we've lost so much of the old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good, thanks, Christine. Jeremy?
Yeah, I have some ideas here that are probably overlapping to some degree, just to throw them out there. The idea of trail continuity between municipal lands, crown lands, and across private lands. It's a difficult thing to write about because the minute you get that out there in the public, people who have private land, even though there may be trails across it already and that are used, if it becomes sort of a kind of officially discussed issue, it might become contentious. So I don't know if it's certainly a problem for us, and it will be into the future, the idea of trail continuity, because so many wonderful trails do cross private lands now. And ultimately the resolution of that in future will be dependent on a number of possible factors. So I'm not sure if we should actually be writing about that in any sense that's going to be in a public venue. The other idea is promoting the idea of new trails in crown lands. I'm thinking particularly, for example, Lee Creek, which is an area that I've explored with some of the members of the Trail Society. It's certainly really interesting. It appears to be an uncut forest, and it's adjacent to the ecological reserve, and it's some pretty beautiful trees in there. That's another possible consideration. The other idea that we had been exploring, which was the idea of the identification of special places in crown lands that need indelibly to be preserved or possibly incorporated into future municipal parks. I think the issue that we had as a committee done a walkabout on was at Hood Point West, the big trees in that area. It's a section of crown land that has a trail going through it already, but it would be just a beautiful municipal park. And I suppose in the background of all of this is the whole overarching issue of potential future logging of crown lands on Bowen, which would affect virtually everything that we are considering in terms of greenways, in terms of potential parks, trails, all of that, even though they're not specifically the purview of the municipality.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. Sue Ellen?
Yeah, thank you. Jeremy, I just wanted to comment on your first idea, the one about trail continuity across private land. And I've thought about this a lot too. And I wanted to offer a suggestion that I've put to a few landowners that have trails through their land, and their concerns about people coming and having their dogs off leash, and their dogs get in a fight with their dog, and all kinds of things you can imagine. And I just wanted to mention the idea of taking a help keep trails open, like a stewardship kind of approach. And here's what you can do to help keep trails open on Bowen, because some of them run across private land. Anyway, that might be a way to do it. Like keep your dogs on a leash, and all the things that you'll be able to think of in terms of, don't do this, do that kind of thing, but just the kind of stewardship approach to make it more palatable, and so that we're not encouraging trespassing. That's always been a challenge for this committee. It's kind of like we did have a goal back in the day when when some of us were on the Bowen Island Parks and Trails Commission, whatever it was called, Parks and Rec Commission, was to try and reduce trespass issues. That was most for beach accesses and things on our beach thing. But maybe it's just a suggestion that I've been thinking about in terms of help keep trails open by being low impact and keeping your dogs on a leash and those kinds of things when you think you might be on private land.
I think it's a great idea personally, and although I do recognize, and it seems to me from quite a few years ago back, just the whole idea of private lands and trails, even the proposal, even implicitly, as you know, probably from the OCP map that's so famous, people get their hackles up, or can do, about these things. I was always surprised at the sensitivity, but it's certainly there. And the minute you bring something into a public kind of a venue, then it starts to become tender, I guess you'd say, contentious. People get a bit nervous about it.
We can talk about it offline if you want. It's just a way that I've been approaching it when people ask me, but no, I would never put them on a map or never encourage that kind of thing. Anyway,
no, I think it's a great idea, though. It's because it's exactly the sort of thing you want to promote. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this is great. And not to put you on the spot, Ben, but did you?
I do, yeah.
He doesn't miss anything.
Slightly different tone than the last one, but I was thinking, just based on the last couple of weeks of cold weather, that sometime maybe October or November, writing a few things about fun ways to use Bowen parks and beaches in the winter.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, fantastic. So that's a good segue to try to get some sort of order. Do you want me to propose an order? Or do people have, I mean, Ben was thinking, maybe October for that one, or November, maybe November, right? Does anybody else have a preference? Sue Ellen?
DG, can you remind me, were these going to be undercurrent articles?
I think it's going to be a combination. It's going to go out, and I think the idea, or maybe what we need to do is write them all, give them, and then, Bonnie, correct me, would they all have to go through proper channels?
Yeah.
Then they would go out. So maybe.
Yeah, so definitely I'd want to look at them just from a with the municipal lens on, make sure that there's no, contrary opinions to regulations, provincial bylaws, those sort of things. Just look at them with that analytical lens. And then we were talking about working with the communication coordinator to unfold them, to disseminate the articles.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah. And, hopefully, that could also be in the undercurrent as well. But we could, because our administrative staff, we do have a page in the undercurrent, or we can coordinate. We can I like the idea of maybe having the bank of them ready to go, and to start, or at least have one, because we're in February, so we're heading into March, into the third month of the year, and it'd be nice to get one out in March.
Yeah. It might be nice to pick 3 of them and see if people are keen to get started. Is anybody whose pen is really itching to get going?
I just have one more question. Is these going to have to be really short, right?
Yes.
And do we have a number of words or something like that? Because that helps me think about how.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking 300 to 400 words max.
Okay.
And a photo would be if you do have a historical photo, or a photo would be really great too, because that for social media, that's really great.
Because I'm thinking the beaches one, for example, there's lots of words and lots of info, and we might be able to break that up into a whole bunch of little chunks. And so
I'm a big fan personally of short. You know, I just think, I mean, even 200 to 300 words might be tight, but maybe we could say 200 to 400 words. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there any, like, can we pick 3 people who are keen to do something, I guess, within the next few weeks? What are we at? February 15th, by the end of the month? Is there anybody who could whip out a...
End of the month. I'm willing to do something on the idea of this idea of identifying areas that are of special interest in for potential park status.
Great. Okay. So Jeremy, could we get one other volunteer? Nicola.
Well, and can we get together with
Yep.
Virginia over the next week or so and maybe
Yeah.
come up with something?
I think there should be some stuff there. It's just the winter's not always the best for beaches.
No, but
Yeah.
I've got pictures, and I'm sure Virginia does, and I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
But spring is great. So, and I saw Nicola. Which one were you thinking?
Probably the old growth forest, because I think that's pretty, I've got quite a lot of information on that one already. So I think I put something together. Carla actually sent me a few links as well, which was really nice of her.
That's great. So Nicola, and then
Nicola.
Phil and Sue Ellen. So that's 3. Well, and we don't have to necessarily say, you know, which, yeah, there we go. Perfect.
And I'll get going as soon as I can. I just don't want to, box myself into a corner. But
Sure. I think I like the idea of getting these to Sophie, and then she could give us some feedback. And
yeah, if you could just submit them, email them to me first, and I'll vet them. And as I say, I just have to make sure of accuracy because they're coming from Parks and Trails committee members, because I'm assuming we're going to identify ourselves as, you know, our name, but Parks and Trails committee member or chair or vice chair. So just with that in mind, I'll just look for accuracy.
Okay, that's great. So I just wanted to be clear when people are going to try to do these. Should we set a deadline here for this first batch?
As people are thinking about that, DG, I wanted to also propose June for mine, just in time for summer vacation. Like
okay,
tie that in. It would be nice to do it for the spring vacation, but I can't commit to anything before April, so I'll work on June for mine.
Okay, well, I guess I'll be July. Seems while we're doing that. Yeah. Okay. All righty.
And then just from my, so they send the articles to Bonny and you send it to communications, and it's like a link it's on our website, on the PTGAC webpage and the undercurrent. And then
our social media.
So then if you can send a link to the PTGAC web page.
Yeah, she could do that with, and that's where the image, a photo was really important.
Okay, so
and almost if it is going to be social media, we need sort of a caption, right? Something that, like a little catchy one-liner, what it's about, kind of thing. Yeah. I just wanted to mention too, with the undercurrent, is that the timeline getting the article, like we're looking 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks ahead to submit before, like, just to make sure that we get it into the undercurrent. So so just if we are looking at March sometime, I mean, probably the beginning of March, maybe if we get one to me, then it has to be vetted, and then Sophie's input, and then to the undercurrent. So it won't be until mid to later March.
Yeah. but get it in the beginning. So that means, Jeremy, you're up
That
for
means I have to send it to you tomorrow, Bonnie.
yesterday. You know, just kidding.
Maybe I would say if we wanted to get it in realistically for March, I would say like right at the beginning of March, so March 1st-ish. So that's like a little ways away, maybe a few days away.
Yeah, a couple of weeks. So maybe what we should aim for, whatever month you're on, try to get it to Bonny by about the 1st of the month, just to give just a general guideline there. And then that way it could go into the various channels sometime during that month. Sound okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this will be fun. Thanks, everybody.
We're
Thank you,
missing
Gillian.
August, September, October, and December.
Um,
I could do my second one for August.
Woo, woo, woo.
So then we just have September and October. Right?
Well, I could do something by then for wildlife watching.
Oh, yeah. September would be nice for
Yeah.
that.
And the keeping the trails open stewardship approach, I was suggesting that for Jeremy, but I can work.
Ellie?
If you need me, Jeremy, let me know.
For which one?
They had there was a note about the
Oh, the
idea
trail
of
continuity?
helping to keep trails open was written down beside my name, but I was trying to say, wait a minute, I think that's Jeremy's.
Yeah, and I got way too many under mine. Actually, B and C are I would integrate them together under my name here. Yeah.
And Jeremy, I was just wondering too, I mean, it's your article, so this is just a suggestion, is maybe because we do have the special places in the parks plan.
Mhm.
So maybe just even referring to the parks plan if you feel like it, and the special places map that's in there.
Is there a map in there, a special places map? God, I've got the parks plan. I better look it up.
Good idea.
Yeah.
There's lots of good stuff in there.
I think that looks really good. I mean, I don't think that we had to do one every month, did we? I mean, so I think this is fine.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
good.
propose we move on. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, DG, for coordinating that.
That's
Lots of fun.
awesome work.
Over. All right, so moving on to the next item, it's updates. First, it's we have Bonny. Do you have any staff updates, Bonny?
Oh, sorry. I don't really. We're sort of the same holding pattern at Quarry Park. You know, we've talked about the eelgrass and the restoration works in Mannion Bay, working on the climate action, the community energy and emissions plan update, the special place, or not special places, I'm thinking about special places, but the use of public places bylaw will be coming out to council shortly. So yeah, I don't really have any other real pressing issues to convey to the committee at this time.
Okay, thanks, Bonny. Were there any questions from the committee for Bonny? Anything? Nope. Okay, and next we have Councillor Fast for council update.
Okay, just a couple of things I wanted to mention. One of them is that the municipality and Islands Trust Executive Committee are going to meet on the 23rd. We're going to have a joint Zoom meeting. And so that will be a chance to talk about how we might be able to collaborate more about preserve and protect. And I've been thinking about some projects that might be useful about that. But if people are interested, you may want to may want to see, because that's the ecological protection organization that Bowen Island is part of. We're a municipality within the Islands Trust. And but I won't go into all the other meetings and things, except to say that I brought my slides finally about Quarry Park. I've been digging, and I apologize for taking so long, but I've sent them to Steph. So Steph, if you can find them in your email.
So when was that? Was that
tonight, during the meeting.
During the meeting? Do you
Like
want to check
10 minutes
your,
ago.
yeah, do you want to just check your sent?
Uh-oh.
I'm not seeing it.
Okay,
but
can I
I'll
share?
check my junk. Oh no, it's in my junk.
Okay, great. And
Yeah, it is.
these are slides from like 2002. So I know I've got more, but this is just give you a taste of the kind of material that I do have for Quarry Park. If we ever want to do interpretive signs, or if these would be the kind of thing that people envision, I just want to let you know what I've got.
Sorry, Ellen, what was it you sent?
Quarry Park PDF.
Yeah, it didn't come through. It's
Okay, can I share my screen?
it thinks you're dodgy and it's telling me they're super risky.
Okay.
So yes, you can share.
Okay.
Just go down to the green button on the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
There you go.
Am I up?
You were.
Oh,
Yep, I can see them.
you can see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. It looks really weird on my side, but I just wanted to start with this one because we've been talking about benches, and because I'm going to be talking about how parks change over time. This is in Headwaters Park, where there used to be a bench. You're seeing two people and a dog on a bench. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so this was, let's see, Theo looks like he's about 9. So this would be like 15 years ago at Headwaters Park, when you could see out into the marsh. Now it's all bush, and there is no view for people to look out of, and the bench has been removed over time. And so I just wanted to flag with you that views are great for benches, but sometimes they grow over, and that parks change. And then just because I thought when we were talking about parks, benches and picnic tables and where should they go, just something to keep in mind.
Mhm.
We did, as the former Bowen Island Conservancy and previous kinds of committees, we did a certain amount of pruning to make these what I call a pocket view, was what we called them back in the time. Pruned out young trees so that you could maintain little views. I think that's lapsed in the last 10 years, but I'll move on here. This is Quarry Park. Back in like 2003 or something, when the dam had just been created. So this is actually not as bad as it was. The old machinery has been moved, and the dam across the back there, can you see my cursor if I move it?
Yeah.
Okay, has been installed. So this is starting to make the lakes. And but as you see, it was a kind of a mud hole, I think might be a good term for it. And this was the owner of the property at the time. You can see Sunset Road had just gone in behind it, and there were burn piles and erosion challenges all around. Not to mention a lot of it was just slash, was bits of logs and wood. Here's another view of the, so we would be looking towards the park, and like that's the dam. So if you followed my cursor along, you would go there, and up to the parking lot is kind of up in here. And I think what you're seeing is the beginning of the trail around one of the first iterations. And as the ground is being, I don't know what I did there. Anyway, flattened. And basically the whole park has been landscaped, although maybe it doesn't look like it today. It sure was. Anyway, this is because it had been used as a quarry, but not the mining kind of quarry for rocks. It had been used, all the wetland soils had been dug out of it for to sell and use for topsoil and different kinds of fill, and it had left these big pits, and this had been what got the then provincial ministry of Forests and Land Resources, I believe it was, had a home on Bowen, and saw all this happening and was horrified, and it was against the rules for people to interfere in wetlands. And so there was sort of a standoff for a while, and eventually developer John Reed actually made an arrangement to help the landowner so he could sell the property, but first he had to fix some things. So this was all part of fixing it, turning it into back into valuable wildlife habitat, and something that would be valuable to the community, rather than something that was definitely a brownfield site and that needed to be kind of blocked off because it was unsafe and had various bad things. By that, I just mean old equipment leaking fuel and things into the ground. So not ideal, but it became a park. And so I'll just take you on a little bit of a journey here. Here's where the two ponds were being created. You can see how steep some of the edges are, and how much erosion there was to try and stop quickly before all that sand and gravel came down. You can see there's other kinds of gravel that have been brought in, and the soils are all mixed. It's quite a it was quite a task. So anyway, this is how I remember Quarry Park back in the day. Then this is Maggie Cumming, by the way, in the middle, Ian Stewart, Alan Whitehead. Alan Whitehead wrote a revegetation plan, or a restoration plan, that we and we were there as the Parks and Rec Commission at the time. I'll try and go a little faster. Sorry, I can get enthusiastic about this. But there was a plan behind restoring Quarry Park. You can see the bare rock hillside. Some of those boulders, they would just fall down every year. They would roll down. There were safety hazards about some of the hillsides. And because the trail ran right along the bottom, and the rocks would just come down. And there were all these big stumps and trees and logs further up the hill, as you can imagine. And we were just waiting for them to come rolling down. So quick, got to get the trees to grow. Anyway, so Alan made a plan. I believe, I can't remember the details, but I'm pretty sure he did it for John Reed. And we, as the Bowen Island Conservancy or Bowen Island Parks and Rec Commission, especially with Maggie there, got busy. So we started, we'd had a bunch of public work parties, replanting. We used bales of straw to slow down the erosion. There were places where there was kind of, the winter rains would make gullies in the sides of the, especially in the trails, but basically in the sides of the slopes. So we did a whole bunch of very fun work parties and slowed everything down. You can see the alders are beginning to come in, and there's one of the bridges just installed, built to be strong enough to take horses. It came in narrower than we thought, but at least it was sturdy enough to take horses on, and that's what that's all about. Public work parties, very fun. Here's our advisor. This is John Riley, really good at growing anything. There's Maggie again with her seed spreader and different kinds of grass seed and things that we tried to use to stabilize the hillsides. That's me. And we would just put down a little patch. This is another one of our work parties, put down a little patch of compost. But basically we had gone around with a little bit of lime or an old bag of flour. I forget what it was, made some circles. So this was all things that the community volunteers were doing at our work party. Putting down a little bit of compost, sprinkling a little bit of seed. This is the humble beginnings. Okay, here's the stone circle. You can see it back there. This was basically to try and stabilize this big shelf of gravel fill that was sitting out there. You can kind of see behind the people's feet that there were some erosion tunnels or erosion starting to happen. We put in all kinds of gravel around the edges. We did all kinds of things. Basically, this was sort of like an anchor to hold it all in place. And anyway, eventually we were able to sort of, nowadays, it doesn't seem to be eroding. Anyway, I won't introduce everybody again. There's Maggie in the middle. This is partly because it's the Maggie Cumming legacy funds that are helping us with some of the Quarry Park work. 2005, we had the park opening. Woohoo! And here we've got the barriers you still see today. This was to keep horses, trail bikes, mountain bikes off the pedestrian trails. So some of them are pedestrian and some of them are, and the pedestrian ones are basically the ones that eroded so quickly we could hardly keep up with maintaining them. Every winter we were going, is the trail still there? You can see we've got work party stuff happening. And here is, well, there's probably some faces there that you can recognize. I'll just go faster, sorry. Here's Maggie Cumming at the park opening. And this is, yeah. And this is Alan Shotwell, a member of the Nature Club and also a great friend of nature. And here's another view. Here's Maggie, and here's our then mayor, Lisa Barrett, and a whole bunch of people. And the Bahora was there too with some horse riders. It was a great mixed group of people. Some of our key volunteers were there. Here's Josephine Riley, who actually worked with the machine operator to put in all those trails in like one afternoon or something. She's amazing. Anyway, photo from the undercurrent. There's Maggie in the middle. And just wanted to show you after the park opening, we still had to try and stabilize some of those. This is that trail that comes down the parking lot is way up here. This one kept washing out every winter. I can't tell you how many times Maggie and Josephine and Ian and other people dug this ditch again and again, and hopefully it's stabilized now. This, we put down that matting, and there's Maggie sprinkling the seed. This finally held that. That finally took. One summer we had enough rain just at the beginning, and it finally took. That was after years. Here's another view on the uphill side. We had to do the same thing, and it was a lot of fun. Anyway, so I just want to take you back. That was then, and here we are all these years later talking about activating the parks and working on the second part with Maggie's legacy of expanding the parking lot and soon to have the pit toilet and make it more of a year-round park. I think that's just terrific. I just want to let you know I'm finding some of these slides. So that's my presentation. I'll stop now.
Thanks, Sue Ellen. That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Really amazing. It would be so nice to have those pictures at the entrance of Quarry Park so people can see what it looked like. And it was so recent as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've got more slides. It's just like we have thousands of slides and images in this house. And the challenge of finding those old ones now is getting to be more of a challenge. I think I've put them aside. That's my trouble. Anyway.
I thank you so much, Sue Ellen. That was great. And just keep those handy, because we'll want to definitely, when we have our not grand opening, but event launching, we want to bring up Maggie and have a piece in the paper at that time. So those are great photos.
The community event. Yeah. Yeah. Reopening or opening phase 2.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Sue Ellen. Just wonderful. Any questions for Sue Ellen from taking a walk down memory lane? No.
I'll send Bonnie. I'll send you that set of slides, so at least you've got them for reference. And and I think I've got better quality images. I'll just keep looking in stuff. Yeah, I'll send them to you too. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Thank you again. Okay, looks like we are coming to the end of our meeting. Thank you for that last bit, Sue Ellen, to close us off. The last bit is just here information items. So there's the climate action plan survey for everyone to take a look at. And the proposed meeting for March is scheduled for March 9th. I believe we'd like to move the meetings up to the first Tuesday of the month. Is that right, Bonnie? That would work better. Second Tuesday, that's second Tuesday. Wow. Okay, second Tuesday of the month. And I believe there was an email sent around about this. Does this work for the committee? Are there any objections to this proposal? No? Okay. So our next meeting will be on Tuesday, March 9th. And until then, keep well. Thank you for tonight. Of course, we went still until 8:46, but great conversation. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Have a good evening.